What's up, YouTube? Today I'm here to talk to you about handling objections in 2023. So what's the one thing that hasn't changed in business or real estate in the last 50 years? Objections. The only thing that actually changes is what they're objecting to. So first and foremost, not a point, but a general foundation. When you're dealing with objections or scripting at all, it all starts with your mindset. And the one thing I always coach and kind of talk on is the unsell. So at the end of the day, you're doing everything in their behalf and at their benefit. So that takes us in the first point. So the first objection that's going to be very common in today's market is interest rates. Oh my God, interest rates have come up. What do I do? Well, there's about 5 different strategies and probably another video that we could talk about how to actually get your interest rate to a good place or somewhere that you're comfortable. But first and foremost is we're advisors, not salespeople. So if you are uncomfortable with the payment whatsoever, we're gonna say you shouldn't buy this home. However, there are strategies on 2-1 buy downs, on buying down costs, lender credits, getting seller concessions to actually get it down. But the one thing that I always say, and this is an example, is the benefits of buying in today's market. So I was doing cold calls the other day and I talked to someone and I simply had a mindset that it can be a good time to buy. Not for everybody. But do you know you can actually negotiate costs? You can actually negotiate price. When we have an inspection, we can actually get costs and concessions to cover repairs or AKA interest rate buy downs. If you have it in your head that it can be a good time, and again, we're advisors, not selling people, because if you're selling, you'll find someone that might not be a good time and try to close the deal. We don't do that. We try to find out, hey, it can be a good time. Who is it a good time for? And that's for the people we help. Interest rates are really high. Absolutely. However, do you know what? If interest rates are 1% higher than they were a year ago, but we're absolutely able to get $50,000 off the sales price, how does that translate? That brings us into the second point, just knowing the numbers, breaking it down. So again, if interest rates today are at, we'll just say 6%, that's not a rate guesstimate, that's just throwing numbers out. And you're saying, I want to get to 5%. I don't know why you'd want 5%, but you just want 1% lower. Let's say it costs you $10,000 to get from a 6% interest rate to a buy down of a 5% interest rate, and that's going to save you $100 a month. How long will it take you to recover $10,000? Right there is where I just ran you through the numbers and things that you need to be able to do to both a buyer and a seller, because if you spend $10,000 to save $100 a month, it's going to take you approximately 7 years to recover that cost. So if you sell or you refinance before 7 years, then that cost buy down didn't actually make sense. So you actually need to know where your break-even numbers are to be able to successfully and fully advise people on what they should be doing. Second point, which basically kind of goes from the foundation of the mindset, is you're always advising people in their best interest. So again, if we come across people and it doesn't make sense for them to buy, we're not there to try to sell them into the deal because it just doesn't make sense. And that's the difference between advisors and salespeople, is we're not there to just close a deal, get paid, and move on. We're actually there to set people up and help them get from A to Z and set themselves up in their financial best interest, not yours or ours. So when you're talking about advising, one objection that we come across is sellers. Does it make sense to sell in today's market? Well, the fact is we're still at relatively all-time highs. We have had some decreases and 6% decreases in some areas. That's not the end of the world. So if you have tons of equity and you need to get out or you want to sell and you're still able to cash out, then it's going to make sense to sell for you. If you are low on equity, you're just approximately bought a year ago, you're trying to break even, then that's where we'd advise that it might make sense to rent the property out. And there's also all sorts of creative financing deals that we could actually talk about as well. DM us and we'll give you some of those as far as subject to and all of those fun things. But it depends on who you are and where you want to go. And that is the biggest difference between advising and selling, is we genuinely want to identify where people are at and if it makes sense. Because again, if you have $1 million of equity, and in the changing market, you might have lost, let's say, $50,000. You're still walking away with $950,000. It might make sense for you. However, again, as I said, if you bought a year ago and after the cost of selling, you're barely break even or you're actually spending money to close the deal, then it might not make sense. It's all about finding where you're at and helping advise you to where you want to be. The third point is getting people from point A to point Z, wherever that is. In sales and advising, though, the one thing that we really want to discuss is that we are miners. We mine for deals because, as I said in the first point, it all depends on who you are and where, and does it make sense now? Because it is gonna absolutely make sense for certain people to buy or sell in today's market and not for others. So as far as mining, that just means we're digging and mining for the deals that make sense for people right now, We're not magicians. We're not trying to create deals out of thin air. We're not trying to force people or get people to buy or sell that might not want to buy or sell. If you don't want to buy or sell, I'm going to tell you should not buy or sell. If it makes sense, I might give you some numbers, break evens, and again, advising how to get from A to Z, because first and foremost, if you have to go from, let's say, Colorado and you have to move to Arizona or Florida, or if you have to move from Florida to California, wherever it is, there's a great many of people that would literally have to relocate or move, and those people for sure have to buy or sell if they're in the right financial place to do so. It's about identifying those that are. So lastly, if you are interested in identifying more deals, go to our webinar on consistent closings in any market at www.highconversionleads.com. We'd love to see you there. Click the link. Thanks so much.